She was dared to kiss the hottest man in the pub, unaware he was the Alpha King. Werewolf Shifter, Romance Audiobook, Intro. Hello, lovely listeners. Welcome back to Dora's Romance Audiobooks. I'm Dora, and today I have a story that starts with a dare and ends with a destiny no one could have predicted. This is a tale of mistaken identity, explosive chemistry, and what happens when an ordinary woman accidentally kisses the most powerful shifter in the realm, and he decides he's never letting her go. Sometimes fate has a sense of humor, and sometimes one impulsive moment can change your entire life. So settle in, maybe grab your favorite drink, and let me tell you about a dare that became so much more. Prologue. There are moments that divide your life into before and after. For Sage Winters, that moment came on a Friday night in a crowded pub, fueled by cheap wine and her best friend's terrible sense of humor. "I dare you," Mara said, her eyes glinting with mischief as she pointed across the bar. "Kiss him." Sage followed her friend's finger to the man sitting alone in the corner booth. Even from across the room, he was breathtaking, tall and broad-shouldered, with dark hair that fell just past his collar and a jawline that could cut glass. He wore simple clothes, jeans and a black Henley, but there was something about him that commanded attention, an intensity, a presence that made everyone else in the pub fade into background noise. "Absolutely not," Sage said, turning back to her wine. "I don't kiss random strangers." "You said you wanted to be more spontaneous, to stop overthinking everything?" Mara leaned forward, grinning. "What's more spontaneous than kissing the hottest man in the pub? Spontaneous is getting bangs. Spontaneous is trying a new restaurant." Sage gestured at the stranger. "That is social suicide. He probably has a girlfriend. Or 10. He's alone, and he keeps looking this way." Mara waggled her eyebrows. "I think he's interested." Sage glanced back. The man was indeed looking in their direction, though his expression was unreadable. His eyes, even from this distance she could see they were an unusual amber color, seemed to look right through her. "That's not interest. That's why are those women staring at me," Sage said. "Only one way to find out." Mara pulled out her phone. "Kiss him, or I post that photo from college. You know the one." Sage's eyes widened. "You wouldn't?" "The one with the mullet wig and the inflatable dinosaur? Oh, I absolutely would." Mara's finger hovered over her screen. "Your choice, Sage. Kiss the hot stranger, or become a meme." It was the wine. That's what Sage would tell herself later. The wine and Mara's blackmail, and the fact that she'd spent the last year playing it safe, being responsible, avoiding anything remotely risky after her disastrous breakup. Maybe it was time to be a little reckless. "Fine," Sage said, downing the rest of her wine. "One kiss. Quick. Then we never speak of this again." She stood before she could change her mind, smoothing her dress with nervous hands. The walk across the pub felt like a mile. With each step, her heart pounded harder. What was she doing? This was insane. She didn't kiss strangers. She didn't. The man looked up as she reached his table. Up close, he was even more devastating. Sharp features, full lips, and those amber eyes that seemed to glow in the dim light. There was something almost predatory about him, like a wolf in human skin, which, given that they were in shifter territory, wasn't entirely metaphorical. "Hi," Sage said, her voice embarrassingly breathless. "I'm sorry this is going to sound crazy, but my friend dared me to kiss you, and she's threatening to post a really embarrassing photo if I don't, and I know that's a terrible reason to kiss someone, but you're really attractive, and I've had wine, and—" She was rambling. She needed to stop rambling. The man's lips curved into the faintest smile. "You want to kiss me because of a dare?" "Yes, I mean, not just because of the dare. You're objectively very kissable, but mostly the dare." Sage wanted to die. "Is that okay? Can I kiss you? Consent is important." I should have led with that. Something flickered in those amber eyes. Amusement, maybe, or interest. "Yes," he said simply. "You can kiss me." Sage's breath caught. She'd expected rejection, Mockery, anything but agreement. Well, she'd come this far. She leaned down, intending a quick peck, but the moment her lips touched his, everything changed. Heat exploded through her body. Her wolf, which had been dormant since her breakup, silent and withdrawn, suddenly surged to life with a force that stole her breath. It pressed against her consciousness, howling a single word. Mate. No, that was impossible. Mate bonds didn't work like this. You couldn't just kiss a stranger and... The man's hand came up to cup the back of her neck, holding her in place as he deepened the kiss. His touch sent electricity racing down her spine, igniting something primal and desperate inside her. When they finally broke apart, Sage stumbled back, her mind reeling. The stranger looked equally affected. His amber eyes had darkened to molten gold, his breathing ragged. "What's your name?" he asked, his voice rougher than before. Sage Winters." "Sage," he repeated as if testing the name on his tongue. Holy shit, that's the Alpha King!" The shout came from somewhere near the bar. Suddenly, everyone in the pub was staring at them. People were dropping to their knees, bowing their heads in submission. Sage looked around in confusion. "What's happening?" The man, the Alpha King apparently, stood towering over her. "I think we need to talk." "You're the Alpha King?" Sage's voice came out as a squeak. "The Alpha King of the entire Eastern Territory?" "Yes. And I just kissed you, because of a dare." "Yes." Sage's vision swam. This couldn't be happening. She'd just kissed the most powerful shifter in the realm. On a dare, because of an embarrassing college photo. "I'm going to pass out now," she announced. And she did. Chapter 1. Sage woke in an unfamiliar room, on an unfamiliar bed that was far too comfortable to be hers. For a moment, she thought she'd dreamed the whole thing. Then she opened her eyes and found the Alpha King sitting in a chair beside the bed, watching her with those intense amber eyes. "Oh God," she groaned, covering her face with her hands. "It was real. I really did that." "You did," he agreed, a hint of amusement in his voice. "How are you feeling?" "Mortified. Confused. Like I need to move to another country and change my name." Sage peeked through her fingers. "Where am I?" "My private residence. You fainted. I couldn't very well leave you on the pub floor." Sage sat up slowly, taking in the room. It was elegant, but understated. Cream walls, dark wood furniture, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking a forest. Not what she'd expected from a king's chambers. "I'm sorry," she said, forcing herself to meet his eyes, "for kissing you without warning, and for causing a scene, and for fainting. I'm usually much more composed. This is literally the worst first impression I've ever made." "I disagree," the Alpha King said, leaning back in his chair. "I found it refreshing. Most people who approach me are either terrified or trying to manipulate me into something. You just wanted to complete a dare and avoid social media humiliation." Despite her mortification, Sage felt a smile tug at her lips. "My priorities are clearly in order." "Clearly." He stood, moving to a side table where a tray of tea waited. "I'm Kieran, by the way, since we skipped formal introductions." "Kieran," Sage repeated. It was strange, hearing the Alpha King's actual name. He'd always been referred to by title in the news, in gossip. She'd never thought of him as a person with a name. He poured 2 cups of tea, offering one to her. "We need to discuss what happened when we kissed." Sage's stomach dropped. "Look, I know it was inappropriate." "Did you feel it?" Kieran interrupted, his gaze intense. "The connection. The pull." Sage's hand trembled slightly as she took the tea. She had felt it. Her wolf was still agitated inside her, pressing against her consciousness, demanding she go to him. "I don't know what you're talking about," she lied. Kieran's lips twitched. "You're a terrible liar, Sage Winters." "It's one of my many flaws," she muttered into her tea. "It wasn't just the kiss," Kieran continued, sitting on the edge of the bed, close enough to make her pulse race, but not touching. "It was the bond. The mate bond. Sage's cup clattered against the saucer. That's impossible. Mate bonds don't form that quickly. They're supposed to develop over time, through prolonged contact and emotional connection, Kieran finished. Yes, that's the common understanding. But there are exceptions. Cases where true mates recognize each other instantly. True mates are a myth, Sage protested weakly. Are they? Kieran's hand reached out, his fingers brushing her wrist. The touch sent heat flooding through her body, her wolf practically purring in contentment. Does this feel like a myth? Sage jerked away, standing abruptly. This is crazy. I can't be your mate. I'm nobody. I work at a bookstore. I have student loans. My last relationship ended because my ex said I was too boring. There is no universe in which I'm supposed to be mated to the Alpha King. And yet, Kieran said, standing as well, here we are. There has to be a mistake. Maybe it's just physical attraction, chemistry. People confuse that with mate bonds all the time. Sage backed toward the door. I should go. Forget this happened. We can both pretend. I don't want to forget. Kieran moved with predatory grace, closing the distance between them. And I don't think you do either. He was right. God help her. He was right. Every instinct screamed at her to stay, to explore this impossible connection. But Sage had learned the hard way that following her instincts led to heartbreak. I can't do this, she whispered. I'm sorry, but I can't. She turned and fled before he could respond. Chapter 2. Sage made it home, locked her door, and immediately called Mara. I hate you, she said the moment her friend answered. I hate you so much. What happened? Did he reject the kiss? Call security? Mara's voice was bright with curiosity. You left with him. I saw you leave together. I kissed the Alpha King, Mara. The Alpha King, because of your stupid dare. Silence. Then, holy shit. That's what someone yelled right before I fainted. You fainted? Not my proudest moment. Sage collapsed on her couch. He took me to his residence. We talked. And Mara, I think he's my mate. More silence. Then Mara screamed so loudly Sage had to hold the phone away from her ear. This is amazing, Mara squealed. You're mated to the Alpha King. Do you know what this means? That my life is over? That your life is beginning. Sage, this is like a fairy tale. The ordinary girl who catches the king's attention. This isn't a fairy tale, Sage interrupted. This is a disaster. I can't be his mate. I don't know anything about being royal. I can barely handle being an adult. So you'll learn. It's not that simple. Sage closed her eyes. He's the Alpha King, Mara. He has enemies, responsibilities, an entire territory to run. What if I can't handle it? What if I'm not enough? What if you are? Mara's voice softened. Sage, you've spent the last year hiding. Ever since Derek broke your heart, you've been playing it safe, avoiding risks. Maybe this is the universe telling you it's time to be brave. Or it's the universe's idea of a joke. Either way, you can't run from a mate bond. Trust me, I've seen it attempted. It never ends well. Sage knew she was right. Mate bonds were powerful, unbreakable. Fighting them only caused pain for both parties. But accepting this meant accepting that her entire life was about to change. Was she ready for that? The knock at her door came 3 days later. Sage had spent those 3 days trying to return to normal. She'd gone to work at the bookstore, reorganized her apartment, binge-watched terrible reality TV, anything to avoid thinking about Amber Eyes and the way her wolf howled every time she tried to sleep. But when she opened the door and found Kieran standing there, still devastating in casual clothes, her carefully constructed denial crumbled. Hi, he said simply. Hi, Sage replied, her heart hammering. You've been avoiding me. I've been processing. Have you processed? Not even close. Sage stepped back, letting him in. Why are you here? Kieran moved into her small apartment, looking around with interest. His presence filled the space, making everything seem smaller. "I wanted to give you something," he said, pulling a small box from his pocket. "If that's an engagement ring, I'm passing out again." His lips twitched. "It's not a ring. Open it." Sage took the box hesitantly. Inside was a pendant, simple, elegant, with a stone that seemed to shift colors in the light. "It's a protection charm," Kieran explained. "Enchanted by my pack's witch. It'll mask your scent, make you harder to track. I wanted you to have it." Sage looked up sharply. "Why would I need protection?" Kieran's expression darkened. "Because the moment you kissed me, you became a target. Word has spread that I've found my mate. There are those who would use you to get to me." Fear coiled in Sage's stomach. This is exactly what I was afraid of. I'm not cut out for this world. I can't handle being hunted or used as a pawn in... "Which is why I'm not asking you to accept the bond right now," Kieran interrupted. "I'm asking you to let me protect you while you decide what you want." "Protect me how?" "Move into the royal residence. Under my protection, no one would dare touch you." Kieran moved closer. "I know it's fast. I know it's overwhelming. But Sage, whether you accept the bond or not, you're in danger now. Let me keep you safe." Sage wanted to argue, wanted to insist she could take care of herself. But she'd felt the weight of stairs in the past 3 days, had noticed unfamiliar cars following her, had sensed predatory eyes watching when she walked home from work. She wasn't stupid. She knew danger when she felt it. "Okay," she said quietly, "but I have conditions." "Name them." "Separate rooms, no pressure about the mate bond, and I get to keep my job at the bookstore." "The first 2 are fine. The third..." Kieran hesitated. "The bookstore is too exposed. Too easy for enemies to target you there." "Then I quit being your mate," Sage said firmly. "That bookstore is mine. I built it from nothing. I'm not giving it up." Kieran studied her for a long moment. "What if I assign guards? Discreetly positioned? I don't want to scare away customers." "They'll be invisible, professional." Kieran's hand lifted, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. The touch was gentle, careful. "Please, Sage, let me compromise on this. I can't bear the thought of something happening to you." The sincerity in his voice melted her resistance. "Okay. Guards, but invisible ones. Deal." Kieran's smile was devastating. "Pack a bag. I'll have someone collect the rest of your things tomorrow." As Sage moved through her apartment, gathering essentials, reality settled over her. She was moving in with the Alpha King. Her life was never going to be the same. Chapter 3. The royal residence was not what Sage expected. Instead of a massive palace with guards at every corner, it was a sprawling estate that felt more like a home than a fortress. Stone and timber, surrounded by forests, with large windows that let in natural light. "Welcome," Kieran said as they entered. "I'll show you to your room." He led her up a grand staircase to the second floor, down a hallway lined with artwork, and into a suite that took Sage's breath away. The room was enormous, bigger than her entire apartment. A 4-poster bed dominated one wall, draped in soft fabrics. French doors opened onto a private balcony. There was a sitting area, a massive closet, and an ensuite bathroom with a tub that could fit 4 people. "This is too much," Sage said, setting down her bag. "It's yours," Kieran replied. "My chambers are at the end of the hall if you need anything." Close, but not too close. Sage appreciated that. "Thank you," she said, "for respecting my boundaries, for not pushing." "I meant what I said, Sage. I want you safe and comfortable. Everything else can wait." Kieran moved toward the door, then paused. "Dinner is at 7 if you'd like to join me. No pressure if you'd rather eat alone." He left before she could respond. Sage spent the afternoon exploring her new space, unpacking, and trying to calm her racing thoughts. Her wolf was content for the first time in days, happy to be near their mate. But Sage's human side was still terrified. At 7, curiosity won out. She made her way downstairs, following the sound of voices to a dining room that managed to be both elegant and warm. Kieran sat at the head of a long table, but he wasn't alone. A woman with silver-streaked hair sat to his left, and a man who looked to be in his 30s sat across from her. "Sage," Kieran said, standing. "Join us. This is Margaret, my head advisor, and Jackson, my beta." Both of them studied Sage with undisguised interest. "So you're the one who kissed our Alpha on a dare," Margaret said, a smile playing at her lips. "Bold move." Sage felt heat creep up her neck. It seemed like a good idea at the time. "The best ones usually do," Jackson said with a grin. "Welcome to the madhouse." Dinner was surprisingly comfortable. Margaret and Jackson treated Sage like a person rather than a curiosity, asking about her bookstore and her interests. Kieran watched the interaction with quiet satisfaction, occasionally jumping in with questions of his own. "So, what do you actually do?" Sage asked Kieran as dessert was served. "I mean, I know you're the Alpha King, but what does that look like day to day?" "Meetings, mostly," Kieran said wryly. "Territory disputes, pack politics, enforcement of laws. It's less exciting than people imagine." "He's being modest," Margaret interjected. "He's completely reorganized our judicial system, implemented new protections for rogues, and negotiated peace treaties with 3 previously hostile territories, all in the last 2 years. Sage looked at Kieran with new eyes. "That's impressive." "It's necessary," Kieran said. "The old ways weren't working. Too many shifters falling through the cracks, too much suffering that could be prevented. I want to build something better." The passion in his voice surprised Sage. She'd expected the Alpha King to be cold, political. But Kieran seemed genuinely invested in making things better for his people. "What about you?" Kieran asked. "Why a bookstore?" "Because books saved me," Sage said simply. "When I was a kid, my parents died in a pack war. I was shuffled between relatives who didn't really want me. Books were my escape, my comfort. When I finally had the chance to create something of my own, I wanted to give other people that same refuge." Something shifted in Kieran's expression. Understanding, connection. "We're more alike than you think," he said quietly. After dinner, Kieran walked Sage back to her room. "Thank you for tonight," she said at her door, "for including me, for not making it weird." "Why would I make it weird?" "Because I'm your supposed mate who's currently refusing to acknowledge the bond?" Sage raised an eyebrow. Kieran laughed, a real, genuine laugh that transformed his usually serious face. "Fair point. But Sage, I meant what I said. No pressure. I want you to choose this. Choose me. Because you want to. Not because of biology, or fate, or obligation." "What if I never choose it?" Sage asked quietly. "What if the bond isn't enough?" "Then we figure something else out," Kieran said. "But I don't think that's what's going to happen." "You sound very sure." "I am." Kieran's hand lifted, his fingers brushing her cheek with heartbreaking gentleness. "Because I felt it too, Sage. That kiss wasn't just chemistry or biology. It was recognition. Soul deep and undeniable. You felt it. I know you did." Sage couldn't deny it. The bond hummed between them, warm and insistent. "Good night, Kieran," she said, not quite answering. "Good night, Sage." As she closed the door, Sage leaned against it, her heart pounding. She was in so much trouble. Because Kieran was right. She had felt it, and she was starting to want it too. Chapter 4. The attack came on Sage's 3rd day at the residence. She was at the bookstore, restocking shelves while trying to ignore the invisible guards, who were about as subtle as elephants. 2 men lingered near the mystery section, pretending to read while watching every person who entered. A woman browsed the romance section but never actually looked at the books. Sage was debating whether to confront them when the bell above the door chimed. 3 shifters entered, all male, all radiating aggression. Sage's wolf immediately went on alert. "Can I help you?" she asked, keeping her voice level. "You're Sage Winters," the lead shifter said. It wasn't a question. Yes, are you looking for something specific? You. He moved closer, his eyes flickering to the color of his wolf. You're coming with us. The guards reacted instantly, moving between Sage and the threats. But the attackers were prepared. More shifters pouring through the front and back doors, overwhelming the guards through sheer numbers. Sage ran. She made it to her office, slamming the door and locking it. Her hands shook as she pulled out her phone, dialing Kieran. He answered on the first ring. Sage? Attack at the bookstore, she gasped. Multiple shifters. The guards are fighting, but the office door exploded inward. The lead shifter stood in the splintered doorway, his smile cold. Hang up! Touch her and die, Kieran's voice said through the phone, deadly calm. Oh, we're not going to touch her, Alpha King, the shifter said, loud enough for Kieran to hear. We're just going to take her. Let you feel what it's like to have something precious ripped away. He lunged. Sage's wolf surged to the surface. Inst continued 10:44 p.m. inked taking over. She shifted mid-leap, her human form giving way to her wolf, sleek and rust-colored, smaller than her attacker, but faster. She dodged his grasp, teeth snapping at his leg. But there were too many of them, and she was cornered in the small office. Then the wall exploded. Kieran came through in his wolf form, and Sage's breath caught despite the danger. He was massive, easily twice the size of any normal wolf, with fur so dark it was almost black, and those amber eyes blazing with fury. He moved with lethal precision, tearing through the attackers like they were paper. His beta, Jackson, burst through behind him with a dozen royal guards. The fight was brutal and swift. When it ended, 3 attackers were dead, the rest subdued and restrained. Sage shifted back to human form, her hands shaking as adrenaline crashed through her system. Kieran shifted back as well, immediately moving to her. His hands framed her face, checking for injuries. Are you hurt? His voice was raw with fear and rage. I'm fine. Shaken. But fine. Sage's laugh was shaky. Your invisible guards weren't so invisible. They're fired, Kieran said flatly. All of them. Kieran? You could have died. His hands tightened on her face. You could have died while I was 10 miles away, helpless to stop it. But I didn't. You got here. I'm safe. This time. Kieran pulled her into his arms, holding her so tightly she could barely breathe. But there will be a next time. These weren't random rogues, Sage. This was coordinated, planned. Jackson approached, his expression grim. The lead attacker is alive. Barely. He's talking. Who sent them? Kieran demanded. He claims to be from the Northern Coalition. Says this was a warning, that they don't recognize your authority, and they definitely don't recognize your mate. Jackson's eyes flicked to Sage. They said if you don't renounce the bond publicly, the attacks will continue. Sage felt ice flood her veins. The Northern Coalition. They're powerful, aren't they? Very, Margaret said, arriving with medical supplies. They've been challenging Kieran's reforms for years. They want to return to the old ways. Might makes right. Rogues have no protection. Females are property. And they see me as a weakness, Sage realized. A way to get to Kieran. Which is exactly why I need you at the residence, Kieran said firmly. No more bookstore. No more unnecessary risks. I'm not going to hide. You almost died. Kieran's voice rose, Alpha command bleeding through. Do you understand that? If I'd been 5 minutes later, but you weren't. Sage pulled back to look at him. You got here. You saved me. I can't always be there, Kieran said, his voice breaking slightly. And I can't lose you, Sage. I know you haven't accepted the bond. I know you're still deciding. But the thought of you dying, of never having the chance to... He stopped, jaw clenching. To what? Sage asked softly. To make you fall in love with me the way I'm already falling for you, Kieran said, the admission raw and honest. Sage's breath caught. Kieran, I know it's too soon. I know we barely know each other. But when I felt you in danger, when I thought I might lose you, he pressed his forehead to hers. Nothing else mattered. Not my crown, not my territory, not my power. Just you. Getting to you. Tears pricked Sage's eyes. I'm scared. So am I, Kieran admitted. Terrified. Of this bond. Of what it means. Of how much I already need you. I don't know how to be a queen, Sage whispered. And I don't know how to be a good mate. I've spent my whole life putting duty first, closing myself off. Kieran's hand slid to her waist. But with you, I want to try. Want to learn. Want to be someone worthy of the gift the moon goddess gave me. Sage looked up at him, at this powerful alpha who was admitting his fears, his vulnerabilities, who'd torn through walls to save her, who was offering not demands, but hope. I need time, she said finally, to process this, to figure out what I want. Take all the time you need, Kieran said, but take it at the residence. Please, let me protect you while you decide. Sage nodded slowly. Okay, no more bookstore, for now. Thank you. That night, Sage couldn't sleep. The attack kept replaying in her mind. The fear, the violence, the moment she'd thought she might die. But also, Kieran's face when he'd found her. The raw terror and relief. Nothing else mattered. Just you. A soft knock made her jump. It's me, Kieran's voice came through the door. I saw your light on. Couldn't sleep either. Sage opened the door. Kieran stood in the hallway wearing sleep pants and nothing else, his hair mussed. He looked younger, more vulnerable than she'd ever seen him. Nightmares? He asked gently. Something like that. Want company? Not anything physical, Kieran added quickly. Just someone to sit with. Sometimes it helps. Sage stepped back, letting him in. They settled on opposite ends of her sofa, a careful distance between them. Tell me about your parents, Kieran said after a moment. You mentioned they died when you were young. So Sage told him. About the pack war that had taken them. About being passed between relatives like an unwanted burden. About finding solace in books and stories. I promised myself I'd never be powerless like that again, she said. That I'd build something of my own, make my own life. And then you happened, and suddenly all that control I'd built up is just gone. I understand that more than you know, Kieran said quietly. I was 7 when my father died. Too young to be alpha, but the pack needed leadership. My uncle served as regent, but he was cruel. Used his power to abuse those weaker than him. Sage turned to look at him. What happened? I challenged him the day I turned 18, barely survived the fight. Kieran's hand unconsciously rubbed his ribs, where Sage could now see faint scars. But I won. Became alpha. And I swore I'd never be like him. Never use power to harm those who couldn't fight back. Is that why you're so protective? Sage asked. Why you reformed everything? Partly, but also because I know what it's like to be vulnerable, to be at someone else's mercy. Kieran's amber eyes met hers. I don't want you to feel that way, Sage. Not ever. Even if you reject the bond, I'll make sure you're safe and protected. That's not fair, Sage said softly. What isn't? You keep being exactly what I need, understanding my fears, respecting my boundaries, being vulnerable yourself. She moved closer. You're making it really hard to keep my walls up. Good, Kieran said, a hint of his usual confidence returning. Because I fully intend to dismantle every single one of them. Carefully, gently, with your permission. But definitely. Sage laughed despite herself. You're very sure of yourself. I'm sure of us, Kieran corrected. I felt it from that first kiss, Sage. This isn't just a mate bond or chemistry. It's recognition. Like my soul knew yours before our lips ever touched. That's very poetic for a king, Sage teased, but her voice was shaky. I contain multitudes, Kieran said lightly. Then his expression grew serious. Stay. Not just physically at the residence, but here. With me. Give us a real chance. Sage looked at him. This Alpha King who'd shown her more genuine care in a week than her ex had in 2 years. Who'd literally torn through walls to save her. Who was offering partnership instead of possession. Okay, she whispered. I'll try. The smile that spread across Kieran's face was devastating. That's all I'm asking. When he finally left her room, Sage touched her fingers to her lips, remembering their first kiss. Maybe fate did have a sense of humor. Maybe dares led to destinies. Maybe, just maybe, this impossible thing could actually work. Chapter 5. Over the next 2 weeks, Sage's life transformed in ways she couldn't have imagined. Kieran kept his word. He didn't push physically, didn't demand she accept the bond, but he courted her with a determination that was both infuriating and endearing. He brought her coffee every morning, exactly how she liked it, though she'd never told him her preference. He had a section of the residence library converted into a reading nook just for her, filled with her favorite genres. He attended to his kingly duties during the day, but always made time for dinner together, asking about her day, her thoughts, her dreams. And slowly, inevitably, Sage's walls crumbled. Tell me something nobody knows about you, Kieran said one evening as they walked through the gardens. I'm terrified of butterflies, Sage admitted. They're just unpredictable. They fly at your face. Kieran's laughter rang through the garden. The woman who fought off attackers is afraid of butterflies. Shut up, Sage said, shoving him playfully. Your turn. Secret. Kieran was quiet for a moment. I hate being Alpha King sometimes. The responsibility, the expectations, the constant performance. Some days I just want to be Kieran. Nobody special, nobody important. The honesty in his voice made Sage's chest ache. Do I make you feel like that? Like just Kieran? Yes, he said simply. With you, I don't have to be the Alpha King. I can just be a man who's falling for an impossible woman. Impossible how? Impossible because you walked into my life on a dare and somehow became the most important thing in it. Kieran stopped walking, turning to face her. Impossible because I can't imagine my future without you in it. Sage's breath caught. Kieran. I love you, he said, the words simple but weighted with meaning. I know it's fast. I know it's overwhelming. But I do. I love your stubbornness and your fear of butterflies and the way you organize books by color instead of alphabetically like a normal person. That's objectively the right way? I love that you'll argue about book organization even when I'm confessing my feelings, Kieran continued, a smile playing at his lips. I love everything about you, Sage, and I need you to know that, even if you're not ready to say it back. Sage stared at him, her heart pounding. She should be terrified, should be running. But all she felt was warmth. I'm falling for you too, she admitted. It terrifies me, but I am. Kieran's smile could have lit the entire territory. That's all I need to hear. He kissed her then, properly, thoroughly, with all the pent-up longing of 2 weeks of restraint. And this time, when the bond flared between them, Sage didn't pull away. She leaned in. The Northern Coalition struck again 3 days later. This time, they were smarter. No direct attack. Instead, they targeted Kieran's allies, his supply lines, his reputation. A warehouse full of medical supplies meant for rogue settlements was burned. An ally pack was threatened until they withdrew their support. And worst of all, rumors began spreading that the Alpha King was distracted, weakened by his obsession with a nobody mate. They're trying to force your hand, Margaret explained during a strategy meeting Sage had been invited to attend. Either you renounce Sage publicly and show strength, or you keep her and appear weak. There's a third option, Jackson said. We go to war. Crush the coalition completely. That would destabilize half the territory, Kieran said, frustration evident. Exactly what they want. Civil war weakens us all. Sage had been quiet, listening, but now she spoke up. What if we don't give them what they expect? All eyes turned to her. They expect you to either hide me or renounce me, Sage continued. What if instead you claim me publicly? Make it clear I'm not a weakness, but a strength. Show them that love doesn't make you weaker. It makes you stronger. That's a risk, Margaret said carefully. If you present her as Luna and the Coalition manages to harm her, you'll look ineffective. But if he claims me and I stand beside him, showing I'm not some delicate flower to be protected. Sage looked at Kieran. Maybe that changes the narrative. Absolutely not, Kieran said immediately. That puts you in even more danger. I'm already in danger, Sage pointed out. Hiding isn't working. Maybe it's time to stop running and start fighting. She has a point, Jackson said. The Coalition sees her as a weakness because she's hidden, protected. But if she stands beside you publicly, as Luna, as an equal partner, it shows she's not a liability but an asset, Margaret finished thoughtfully. Kieran shook his head. The risk. I want to do this, Sage interrupted. I'm tired of being afraid, tired of letting them control our choices. If I'm going to be your mate, your Luna, then I need to act like it. Kieran studied her face for a long moment. You're sure? No, Sage admitted. I'm terrified, but I'm doing it anyway. Something shifted in Kieran's expression. Pride, love, respect. Then we do this properly. A public claiming ceremony at the next full moon. We invite all the territory alphas, including the Coalition leaders. We show them exactly what they're dealing with. That's 10 days away, Margaret said. We'll need to prepare. Then we prepare, Kieran said firmly. His hand found Sage's under the table, squeezing gently. Together. The next 10 days were a whirlwind. Sage was fitted for ceremonial robes. She met with advisors about Luna duties. She trained with Jackson in basic combat, because if she was going to stand publicly as Luna, she needed to be able to defend herself. And every night, Kieran came to her room, and they talked for hours. About everything and nothing. About fears and dreams and the future they were building together. Are you ready? Kieran asked the night before the ceremony. To become Luna to an entire territory? To bind myself to you forever in front of people who literally want me dead? Sage laughed shakily. Absolutely not. We can still back out, Kieran said seriously. If you're not ready. I'm ready, Sage interrupted. Not because I'm brave, but because I love you, and I refuse to let fear keep me from choosing you. Kieran pulled her into his arms, and for the first time since that first kiss, Sage let herself sink completely into the bond. Let herself feel the full force of their connection, warm and golden, and absolutely right. I love you, she whispered against his chest. I love you too, Kieran replied. My impossible mate. My future Luna. My everything. As they held each other, the bond between them solidified, strengthening with acceptance and love. Tomorrow they'd face the Coalition. Tomorrow everything would change. But tonight, they had each other. And that was enough. Chapter 6. The claiming ceremony was held in the Great Hall, a massive space that could hold thousands. And it seemed every shifter in the territory had come to witness this historic moment. Sage stood in an antechamber, wearing robes of silver and white that marked her as the Alpha King's chosen mate. Her reflection in the mirror showed a woman she barely recognized, confident, regal, ready. You look beautiful, Margaret said, adjusting Sage's ceremonial necklace, and terrified. Both are accurate, Sage replied. A knock at the door. Jackson entered, his expression grim. The Coalition leaders are here, all 5 of them. Front row seats, looking smug. His eyes met Sage's. You don't have to do this. We can still call it off. No, Sage said firmly. This ends today. The ceremony began at sunset. Sage walked down the long aisle alone, Kieran's instruction, to show she came to him by choice, not by escort or force. The crowd watched in silence. Some faces showed support, others hostility. And in the front row, 5 alphas watched with cold calculation. Kieran waited at the altar, magnificent in black robes that emphasized his power, his authority. But when he saw Sage, his expression softened with love. She reached him, placing her hand in his. "You came," he whispered. "Did you doubt I would?" "Never." The ceremony officiant began the traditional words. Vows were exchanged. Blood was shared, a small cut on each of their palms, pressed together to symbolize the binding of their souls. When the bond snapped fully into place, the force of it stole Sage's breath. It was like coming home, like finding a part of herself she didn't know was missing. Kieran's eyes blazed gold as he felt it too. "I present to you," the officiant announced, "Alpha King Kieran and his Luna, Sage." The hall erupted in applause, most of it anyway. The coalition leaders remained seated, their expressions dark. The reception that followed was tense. Sage stood at Kieran's side, accepting congratulations from well-wishers, while hyper-aware of the threats lurking nearby. One of the coalition leaders, Alpha Marcus of the Northern Reaches, approached them. "Congratulations on your mating," he said, his tone making it clear the sentiment was false. "Though I have to wonder if you've considered the implications, Alpha King." "Enlighten me," Kieran said coldly. "A Luna should be strong, capable, from good bloodlines." Marcus's eyes swept over Sage dismissively. "This one is nobody. No pack, no family, no power. She weakens your image." "She is my mate," Kieran said, alpha command bleeding into his voice. "Chosen by the moon goddess herself. Are you questioning the goddess's judgment?" Marcus smiled coldly. "I'm questioning yours, but time will tell if you've made a mistake." He walked away before Kieran could respond. "Charming guy," Sage muttered. "He's testing us," Kieran said quietly. "Seeing if I'll defend you publicly or let him insult you. You defended me. That's enough." "Is it?" Kieran turned to her. "Because I'm about to defend you a lot more if you'll let me." Before Sage could ask what he meant, Kieran led her to the center of the hall. He raised his hand, calling for silence. "I have an announcement," he said, his voice carrying through the massive space. "There are those among us who question my choice of mate, who see Luna Sage as a weakness rather than a strength." Marcus and the other coalition leaders looked smug. "They're right to question," Kieran continued, surprising everyone. "Because Sage isn't like previous Lunas. She didn't come from a powerful family or a ruling pack. She built her own life from nothing. She survived loss and rejection, and still chose kindness over bitterness." His eyes found Sage's, warm with love. "She walked into a dangerous situation to save me from an attack, fought alongside my warriors, and stood before you today despite knowing some of you want her dead. That's not weakness, that's strength." He turned back to the crowd. "Luna Sage will not be a traditional Luna. She will be my partner, my equal in all things. She will help me lead this territory into a new era, one where power isn't just about physical strength, but about compassion, wisdom, and the courage to do what's right, even when it's difficult." Murmurs spread through the crowd, some approving, some skeptical. "And to anyone who sees her as a target," Kieran's voice went deadly calm, "know this. Harm her, and you'll face me. And I promise you, I am far less forgiving than she is." The threat was clear. Absolute. Marcus stood slowly. "Pretty words, Alpha King. But words don't win wars." "Good thing I have more than words," Kieran replied. That's when Jackson stepped forward, carrying a bound folder. "We have evidence of your involvement in the warehouse fire, Alpha Marcus. Witness statements, financial records, photographs." Marcus's confident expression flickered. "We also have evidence of your trafficking operations," Margaret added, stepping forward with her own files. "Your attacks on supply lines, your threats against allied packs." "This is a setup," Marcus began. "This is justice," Kieran interrupted. You have two choices. Step down peacefully and face trial before the council. Or resist, and I invoke Alpha's right. Single combat for leadership of your pack. Alpha's right was an old law, rarely invoked. Single combat between two alphas. Winner takes all. Marcus looked around the hall, calculating. His allies in the coalition exchanged uncertain glances. The evidence was damning. If he went to trial, he'd lose everything. But if he fought Kieran and won? I accept your challenge, Marcus said. Combat. Tomorrow at dawn. The hall erupted in shocked murmurs. Kieran, no, Sage whispered urgently. That's what he wants. He's one of the strongest alphas in the territory. And I'm the Alpha King, Kieran replied calmly. Trust me, Sage. This is the right move. That night, Sage couldn't sleep. She paced her room, no longer separate but adjoined to Kieran's chambers, now that they were officially mated, worry gnawing at her. Kieran found her at midnight, wrapped in a blanket on the balcony. You should rest, she said. You have a fight in a few hours. I can't rest until I know you're okay. Kieran moved behind her, his arms wrapping around her waist. Talk to me. I'm terrified, Sage admitted. Marcus is powerful, experienced. What if... I won't lose, Kieran said firmly. You can't know that. Yes, I can. Kieran turned her to face him. Because I'm fighting for something Marcus has never had. A true mate. A real reason to win. That's not... Sage, do you know what the mate bond does? Beyond the emotional connection? Kieran asked. It makes us stronger. Our wolves are more powerful together than apart. Your presence alone makes me twice as dangerous. I'm not doing anything. You're loving me, supporting me, believing in me. Kieran's forehead pressed to hers. That's everything. Sage kissed him then, pouring all her fear and love into the connection. Through their bond, she felt his certainty, his confidence, and beneath it, his determination. He would win. Not just for himself, but for her. For them. For the future they were building. Come to bed, Kieran whispered. Let me hold you. We'll face tomorrow together. They did go to bed. Just to sleep, curled together in the massive bed that was now theirs. Sage felt the steady beat of Kieran's heart, the warmth of their bond, and slowly, finally, she slept. When dawn came, Sage stood beside Margaret and Jackson, watching as Kieran and Marcus faced each other in the traditional combat ring. Both alphas shifted to wolf form, Kieran's massive dark wolf against Marcus's gray one. They were evenly matched in size and strength. The fight was brutal. They tore into each other with savage efficiency, blood staining the ground. Every hit made Sage flinch. Through their bond, she could feel Kieran's pain, his exertion, but she could also feel his determination. Marcus fought with rage and desperation. Kieran fought with purpose. When it ended, Kieran's jaws were locked around Marcus's throat, a killing hold. He could end it with one bite. Yield, Kieran growled, his voice carrying even in wolf form. Never, Marcus snarled back. Then you leave me no choice. But instead of killing, Kieran released him slightly, just enough to speak clearly to the watching crowd. I am Alpha King. My word is law. And I say this. Alpha Marcus, you are stripped of your title and banished from these territories. Your pack will be dissolved and absorbed, your lands redistributed to those you've harmed. He looked at the other coalition leaders. Anyone else want to challenge my authority? My choice of Luna? My reforms? Silence. Then kneel, Kieran commanded, alpha power rolling off him in waves. One by one, they knelt. The coalition leaders, the crowd, everyone acknowledging Kieran's dominance. Everyone except Sage, who stood as his equal, his Luna, his mate. When Kieran shifted back to human form, bloody and exhausted, Sage was there. She helped him to his feet, letting him lean on her strength. Did I mention you're magnificent? She whispered. You might have, Kieran replied, a tired smile crossing his face. But I never get tired of hearing it. As they walked back to the residence together, battered but victorious, Sage realized something profound. She'd come to this territory on a dare. She'd kissed a stranger and found her mate. She'd been terrified of losing her independence, her identity. But standing beside Kieran, supporting him and being supported in return, she'd never felt more like herself. This was what it meant to be true mates. Not losing yourself in another person, but becoming more of yourself because of them. Epilogue. 6 months later. The bookstore reopened with much fanfare. Sage had insisted on it, despite Kieran's continued security concerns. They'd compromised. The store had state-of-the-art security, guards who were actually invisible this time, and Sage only worked 3 days a week. The rest of her time was spent fulfilling Luna duties, which turned out to be far more interesting than Sage had expected. She'd started programs for orphaned pups, established libraries in every pack settlement, worked with Margaret to reform laws that discriminated against rogues and unmated females. You're changing everything, Kieran had said one night, watching her work on yet another proposal. We're changing everything, Sage corrected. Together. Now, standing in her bookstore, surrounded by customers and the smell of old paper, Sage felt contentment settle deep in her bones. Kieran appeared at closing time, as he often did. How was your day? He asked, pulling her into his arms. Perfect. Mrs. Henderson finally bought that romance novel she's been pretending not to be interested in. And a little girl asked me to recommend books about brave women who save kingdoms. Sage smiled. I gave her everything I could carry. Of course you did. Kieran kissed her forehead. Ready to go home? Home now meant the royal residence, but also so much more. It meant safety, partnership, love. As they drove through the territory, Sage noticed the changes everywhere. New buildings, happy faces, rogues walking freely without fear. We did good work, she said softly. We did, Kieran agreed, and we're just getting started. That night, curled together in their bed, Sage thought about that night in the pub. The dare, the kiss, the moment that had changed everything. Thank you, she whispered. For what? Kieran asked, half asleep. For being exactly what I needed, even when I didn't know I needed it. Kieran pulled her closer. Thank you for being brave enough to kiss a stranger on a dare. Best decision you ever made. Second best, Sage corrected. Oh? What was the first? Choosing to stay. Choosing to love you. Choosing this life. Sage looked up at him. That was the best decision I ever made. Kieran kissed her, soft and loving and full of promise. Through their bond, Sage felt his love, his gratitude, his absolute certainty that they were exactly where they were meant to be. Two souls brought together by fate and a dare. Two hearts choosing each other every single day. Two mates building a future that was better than anything they could have imagined. Sage fell asleep smiling, secure in the knowledge that she was home. Not because of where she was, but because of who she was with. Her mate, her Alpha, her Kieran. And it all started with one impulsive kiss. Outro. Thank you so much for listening to She Was Dared to Kiss the Hottest Man in the Pub, unaware he was the Alpha King. I hope Sage and Kieran's journey from that daring first kiss to their happily ever after made you smile. This is Dora, and I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever done something on a dare that changed your life? What did you think of the instant mate bond trope? Drop a comment below and let me know your favorite part of the story. If you enjoyed this audiobook, please give it a like and subscribe to Dora's Romance Audiobooks for more shifter romances, fated mate stories, and tales of ordinary people finding extraordinary love. Until next time, remember, sometimes the best love stories start with the most unexpected moments, and sometimes fate knows exactly what it's doing, even when we don't. With love, Dora.